Hello, everyone. So I've had a number of parents ask me what my take was on the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. So if you're interested, I wanted to give my 2 cents. I've been in obviously the martial arts for a very long time, and I have a unique perspective on this since I've been doing the combat sports for quite a bit. So if you're interested, great. If you haven't watched the fight, I'm going to give you some spoilers, so don't watch this if you want to watch it later on. But I think most people either have or they're going to, or they've heard about it, right? But this is my take on it. So, in the 80s, Mike Tyson, just force of nature, absolute force of nature. I loved watching his fights. And the reason why is because he's very unique. So he's actually very short for a heavyweight. He's 5'10". The average heavyweight is like 6'4". He fought a number of people that were like 6'6" or even potentially taller than that. But realize that's a 6-inch, 8-inch, maybe a 10-inch reach. That's huge. That's huge. This is what he did normally. And he didn't just do well, he thrived. He thrived. How did he get past this? Well, so if you have a 6-inch reach, an 8-inch reach, whatever, so you're using your jab, right? If you can use that, you've got that reach, you can keep people away from coming in on you. And so if I've got that length and I can use that, I use my reach, and I can use that, the other person can't even get close to me. And now I'm thinking about, how am I going to knock this person out? So I'm using my jab, I'm using my reach, I'm keeping them away from me. How am I going to knock this person out? I'm thinking about, okay, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this. So I can be doing that. The other person on the other side, they can't even think about how am I knocking them out. They've got to think about, how do I get in? How do I get around? How do I get past this reach? How do I get close enough so I can just even hit them, right? So psychologically, that's a huge disparity. And yet, Mike Tyson was able to take that weakness and turn it into his strength. So what he did was he would, do his bobs and weaves coming in close. And as he's doing that, he's firing and getting in. He's throwing his punches. And then he'd get in really close. Now when he's in close, the person that has reach is now at a disadvantage. Because now you have that reach. You have that leverage. Now they're in really close. Now my leverage is not as good. And for the shorter person, they have better leverage. Then as he was in, he's shifting and he's pivoting and he's moving. Sometimes he switches, he's now in his southpaw stance. And for him, he was firing all these combos, and it didn't matter where he was. So if you, for example, are an orthodox fighter, so you're right-handed, and let's say that you've got a great, your left hook, right? Let's say your left hook is really good. If I switch stance, and now I'm in a southpaw stance, my left hook is different. It's a different punch now just because you've switched your feet. For Mike Tyson, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if he shifted, pivoted, whatever he was. He could fire any of those punches, and every punch had the power to knock you out, right? The other thing, too, is every time he's shifting and he's pivoting, he's using that power. He's using his whole body weight to just get more power and more power. So he's getting in quick. He's getting in fast. He's taking your reach away from you. You lose your leverage. Now he's got that strength. Every time he's pivoting, he's getting more and more power into this. He's throwing all these combos. It was just awesome. It was just awesome to watch how he got past that and how he turned that potential weakness into a strength. And he did that with fighter after fighter after fighter after fighter. It was just awesome, right? Now, fast forward to this fight with Jake Paul. Roy Jones Jr. Was one of the announcers. He called it, I think, perfectly. He said that Mike Tyson didn't seem to have his legs. That was exactly it. Tyson, his upper body looked pretty good, but his lower body was stiff. His legs were stiff. The other thing, too, is like he would throw a punch or he'd throw 2 punches, but he really wasn't throwing 3, 4, 5, 6. He wasn't throwing combinations. And some people were like, well, Jake Paul's throwing a lot more punches. Must be because Jake Paul's just in a lot better shape. I don't think it was a conditioning thing as much. I think it was more just watch him move. He wasn't moving well, especially when he pivoted. When he pivoted, he looked off balance. And so when he's off balance, he's not going to be throwing punches. If you're not in a good stance, if you feel like you're going to fall over, you're not going to be throwing those punches. Because now, even if you throw that punch, anytime you throw a punch, you're opening yourself up. You're opening yourself up to potentially get knocked out. And if he's throwing a punch and he's off balance, he's not going to be able to counter it or follow up with something else. He's not going to have as much power. He just didn't look confident. That's why I didn't see him throwing that 3, 4, 5 combo. He just wasn't doing that. So this is what I saw over and over again was his footwork wasn't there. His weight positioning wasn't there. His balance just was off. And that was hard to see. So something that was his strength was now his liability. And I think he was worried about getting knocked out, and that's why he was just wasn't moving, just wasn't throwing the punches as much and all that stuff. Now, the other thing with this too, though, is I saw some videos of him training before that fight, right? And those videos that we saw looked good. Looked good. He's moving. He's changing his... It looked like the old Tyson. He's a little bit slower, but it looked like him. So what that tells me is one of two things happened. Either he was injured going into this fight, and he had a knee brace on his leg. So either he was injured, and that's why he wasn't moving properly, or the videos that we saw were cherry-picked. Right? It could be that they made 10 videos, and one of them was good. The other 9, he was off balance, looking the way that he was during this fight. Right? It could very well be, well, he's 58. Yeah, he's lost some of his equilibrium. That's why he's off balance. His footwork's not there. So I have a feeling that's probably more of what it was. And so that was the hard thing for me anyway, watching that, is seeing what I loved about him and what made him so good. And he's 58. He doesn't have that positioning. He doesn't have that balance. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So that was a little bit hard to see. But the one thing I can say from this, though, for sure is this. If Evander Holyfield, if Lennox Lewis in their prime fought that Tyson, the Tyson, 58-year-old Tyson, if any of those guys in their prime fought that Tyson, they would have destroyed him. They would have sent him to the hospital. It would have been a bloodbath. The fact that Jake Paul, in his prime, let's not talk about knock him out. He couldn't even knock him down, right? Not a knockout. No. Just knocked down. He could not get a knockdown. So don't even think about the knockout. No knockdown. So that, to me, shows me Jake Paul doesn't even deserve to be in the ring with those top boxers, because he's not. Any of the top fighters, any of those top ones in their primes would have easily knocked Tyson out at 58. Easily. Jake Paul couldn't do that. He couldn't even get a knockdown. So to me, Jake Paul is a phenomenal promoter. Absolutely phenomenal promoter. But now, Jake did say at the end of the fight that he'd like to fight Canelo. I'd love to watch that. Why? Because Canelo is not in his prime anymore, but he's not 58 years old out of his prime. So I'd love to see that. That would be a cool fight. I'd still like to see that. So anyway, yeah, it was a little bit hard to watch that. The 2 other fights before that, there was 2 women that fought and then 2 guys that fought before that. Those were phenomenal. The first fight of the night was, yeah. But the 2 other fights, they were fantastic fights. So if you're a boxing fan, definitely make sure you watch those if you haven't. But anyway, so that's my 2 cents. The other thing I'd like to point out with this is you can start training at any time in your life. If Tyson can get into the ring at 58, anybody can train at any time. So parents, if you ever want to jump in and join us in class and learn how to punch things or kick things, jump in. We'd love to have you. So anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.